And we are recording, and welcome everyone to our first session. My name is Tim Stalmer, and I'm here with Tamara Lederer. Wave Tamara, there we go. And we are from the VSTE Conference Committee, and we're so happy that you're joining us for the first session. This is a session on student engagement through choice and project-based assessment, and it's going to be led by Rochelle Allen and Lindsay Krause. There we go, they're going to wave. Now, this is an asynchronous session, so they're going to run a video for a while, and they're going to hang out in the chat room to answer questions and talk to you about what they're doing and everything, and then they'll come back at the end and you can answer any additional questions. So, Lindsay, Rochelle, I'll turn this over to you.
Hey, good morning, everybody. I'm so glad that you guys are here for the first session. It's a great turnout so far. Not nerve-wracking at all, promise. So our introductions are actually in the video itself. So we're gonna go ahead and get started with the video, and then we'll be here to answer chat the whole way through. I am gonna turn off my video just so there's no lag, and I'm gonna be muting myself as well, but I'll be here in the chat. Hi, everybody. My name is Lindsay Krause, and I'm an instructional technology coach for Prince William County. This is my 7th year working for the county, but it's only my first year working as an ITC. So before this, I taught middle school English for grades 6 through 8. And for my very last year of teaching, I actually got to teach a blended classroom. So I'm excited because that enables me to share all the strategies and techniques that we'll be going through today.
Good morning, I'm Rochelle Allen, and I'm also an ITC in Prince William County Schools, Virginia. I spent 5 years in the classroom teaching 1st grade and another 2 years teaching 4th grade prior to becoming an ITC. I've been an ITC for about 5 years now. We want to thank you for coming. We know it's very early and it's the first day of VSTE, and so we thank you for choosing us for being your first session of VSTE 2020. This is student engagement through choice and project-based assessment. We do have a tiny URL link on the screen if you would like to follow along in the slides with us. We'll also post it in the chat if you just want to click on it from there. Please feel free to send any questions to the chat as well, and we will do our best to answer them all during our short time here together. We also have a Wakelet available for you that has lots of different resources pertaining to what we're going to be talking about this morning. And here you will also be able to find that Wakelet if you want to go there now, but we will also have this available at the end if you wanted to wait until the end to be able to see these resources. So why student choice? Differentiation, that's one of the biggest ones. We want to make sure that students have the ability to do the assignments that work for them. As we know, not every assignment works for every student, so it allows the differentiation. We want them to be able to choose how they want to show their learning. Engagement. The students are way more engaged when they have choice in what they are doing. If you give them an assignment to do and just say, this is what you have to do, a lot of times the engagement is just not as strong, but when they get to choose, they usually are a lot more excited about that. It gives them ownership and that buy-in to be able to say, this is what I created, this is what I chose to create. It allows that independence, since this is an activity that they will be doing mainly on their own or in a small group. It allows that connection with other students, the confidence of knowing that they can succeed in these activities. It increases their competence, and it's just more fun. There are different ways to provide choice. They can choose based off of what you may put together on a choice board. They can choose the way that they may want to respond to the particular project. They can choose the different project type. They can even have choice in the topic that they might decide to do for their project. They can have choice within what they choose to read. They could even have a choice in the application or applications that they may choose to use in order to create that project. Strategies that they choose to use or the pace that they choose to go can also be a choice. Sometimes the teacher may need to choose the group or the partners, but sometimes that can be a choice that you give to the students. And then the learning goals could also be a choice that they may have. As a teacher, you have the option to scale the way that you want to make it work for you. On the lower end, you may have the students be able to choose the topic or even what way they would like to respond to a prompt. Whereas on the higher end, they may be able to have a more detailed multi-genre choice project. Ultimately, you as the teacher will decide how much choice that you want to give the students. But we want to make sure that whatever you choose, that the students have some sort of choice in the matter.
Okay, student choice is one of my favorite things that I use in my classroom. Even if I'm not doing something big, just the fact that they have choices empowers our students to learn. So I'm really glad that you're here learning more about that today. One of the ways that I used it the most in my classroom was with project-based assessment. And I know sometimes that can seem daunting. I don't have time for projects, but project-based doesn't necessarily mean that you're spending weeks on a project. It could just be something that takes a day. So the scale that you use is up to you. But basically it just means going beyond quizzes and worksheets to assess our students. And that can be formative or summative. And the way that I did that, I like to keep things organized. I like my students to know what to expect. And so I used an EDGE protocol that I came up with where we would first explore a different project type. We would analyze what went into it, and then we would create our own. And we went through that process: explore, analyze, create every time. So to explore just means that they're looking into that project. So you give them examples of it. For example, let's talk about podcasts. So if we were learning about podcasts, I would give them a bunch that they could listen to, or I would play some and have them write down things that they notice. But the idea is to hype it up. Whatever it is that you're highlighting, hype it up, make it exciting, choose things that are engaging. At the upper levels, this could be something that they do independently. So say you give them one example and then have them go off and explore on their own. At lower levels, this could be something that you do together as a whole class, or even just because that's what you want to do. That's the beauty of this. It's very flexible. The analysis side was a little bit more involved in that I would have them talk about what it is that they listened to or that they saw or that they watched. So I had them analyze, what are the qualities? What are some of the things that you noticed about this type of project? For this podcast, what techniques did they use that really got you engaged? How did they lose you? What if you didn't like it? So we talked about those kind of things and kind of picked apart what made that project a project. And then the last part is create. So now they've done this exploration, they've learned more about it, and now they have to do their own. And this is something that can be completely tailored to whatever works for you. Whether you're in person, whether you're not, or 50-50, you can have them working together, you can have them working independently. There's lots of different ways that they can collaborate virtually. But if you'd prefer it to be independent, that works as well. But the important part is that they are doing the creating. And so I'm going to show you what that looked like for me for a few different types of projects. So one of the ones that we really found helpful was newsletters. Writing, the ability to write is important in any content area, so it applies to literally everything. And what I would do is I gave them this document. This is at the secondary level. And they would go through this list. Notice at the top, it says compare 3 newsletters. So I gave them 3. I wanted some control. There were certain things that I wanted them to see, but I also wanted to provide choice. And so I did. I then let them choose 2 of their own. And what they would do is they would answer the questions about each one of these. So I had them working in pairs on a collaborative document. So some of the students were at home, some were in person, and they could just fill it out together through a collaborative doc. And then on their own or with their partner, they would collaborate on the comparing and contrasting of 2 of their choice. And so that helped to meet my language arts standards, but comparing and contrasting often meets lots of standards. So it's a great way to analyze the types of things that they were looking at. So once they were done with their analyzing and their exploring, what I would have them do is create their own.
So for newsletters, I had my students work together. So first they would be in like a group of 5 and they'd have to choose an overall topic. And then after that, they would work independently to actually create their own individual articles for that newsletter. So they do their own research, they do their own interviews, they proof and edit through me. And then there would be a time where they'd all have to come back together and they would collaborate. So they used PowerPoint Online to create their document where they would all upload their own article into the newsletter and then format it from there. But you can also just make this an individual thing where maybe they create their own newsletter page or they create a newsletter over time. So this project is really versatile, but it was really successful at the secondary level.
On the elementary school level, we would do some of those same type of concepts. However, instead of having 5 different newsletters, we may only be comparing 2 different newsletters, and we may be doing those as a group, depending on what level of elementary we're talking about. On the lower levels, we would definitely be doing 2 as a group, and your explore and your analyze part of this process would be you doing it together so that they can hear you thinking out loud. That is such an important component of it until they get more comfortable with how to do that. And then you will go into the create option. This right here is an example of a newsletter that may be done on the elementary school level using Wixie. And then on the other side, you'll see that this is a rubric that could be used in order to grade this type of assignment that is done. Here are some apps that could be used on the elementary and secondary levels. So of course, we're all familiar with PowerPoint, and Google Slides is very much similar to the way PowerPoint is. But I wanted to show you a couple examples of Wixie and Sway, just in case you're not as familiar with those 2 options. Here's Wixie, which is where I found the example for the newsletter. And this website here, if you click on Wixie, will just take you through a bunch of different things as far as the newsletter and how you could possibly use that. And then there's Sway. Sway is a Microsoft program that already has a layout for you. So all you will have to do is replace the words and replace the pictures to be able to say what it is that you need. Sway does have lots of different templates to choose from so that the students aren't seeing the same thing, and it keeps things interesting. Here are some different ideals that your students may choose to do in order to do their newsletter. They can use it as a way to interview people in the community and then write about it. They can share recipes or traditions from their culture. They can make a class blog or highlight some holidays, real or made up. They can share positive stories that may be going on in the school or in their community and write about that to put into their newsletter. Or they could decide to do a classroom newsletter to inform the parents of what's going on in the classroom or even what they may be learning that particular week or month. Of course, we want this to be written by the students.
All right, and then we have videos. We all know that kids love videos. They love making them, they love watching them, they love them. And it works for basically every grade level. Just how you do it depends on how old they are or what they need or what you want from them, what you want them to demonstrate, right? So notice I used a very similar template because I like them to know what to expect. I gave them their 3 that they had to watch and 2 of their choice to explore and then analyze. And for the create part, this part was fun for them. So they would work in pairs, and sometimes I would give them a theme, or at least an overall theme, and then they could choose like a subtopic. And then they would have to script it or storyboard it, their choice. Some prefer to draw, some prefer to write. And there were certain things they knew they were looking for. And then they had to create their video and edit it using the app of their choice. But one of my favorite things about the videos was you get to see a side of them that you don't normally get to see. And it's also the kids that you think might not understand something might blossom in this context because it's a way for them to show something that they don't normally get to show. And so you might see, oh, wow, they really do understand. They explained it well in their own way. And so I really, really love the use of videos. And there's so many very simple and short ways to use them. And also you can make a big project out of it. So videos are super versatile.
Again, when referring to how to do the same concepts on the elementary school level, instead of doing 5 videos that the students will explore on their own, the teacher may decide on the lower elementary school levels to do 2 different video explorations and analyze those together as a class. Again, the exploring and analyzing part will be done prior to the students creating their own videos. I have some student created videos that I want to be able to share with you. The first video is a Flipgrid. Fourth grade students were doing a writing assignment about how to do a topic of their choice. Here's a small clip of how two fourth graders chose to use video to show their learning.
Hey guys, my name is Eduardo, and my name is Anthony. Today we're making homemade ice cream at school. You need sugar, 1.5 cup, another 1.5 cup, 1.5 teaspoon milk.
Because Flipgrid is so easy to use, these students were able to do this completely independently to be able to record themselves. The next video is a student-created video using iMovie and Scratch Junior, and then uploading it to her YouTube channel. iMovie movie trailers are really awesome because it even gives them a storyboard to help them with the planning of their video. The last video I'll show you is an Adobe Spark video of a student practicing counting.
One kitten is like cute. I like to fish. 3 Lego stormtroopers are so cool.
So if you see, that was a lower elementary school student, but just showing you that video can be a great way to show your learning. Some apps that could be used on both the elementary and secondary level are Flipgrid, iMovie, Canvas Studio actually has the video portion there, Adobe Spark, and Microsoft Photos or Microsoft Video Editor. If you're not familiar with Clips, that is also an Apple product that can be used on an iPad or iPhone or a MacBook. What I enjoy about Clips is that it allows the video to come to life and the students can put little captions in there. They can also create an emoji that actually moves right along with them. So if you have those students that are a little bit more reluctant to be able to show their faces to the camera, this is a great way for them to be able to do the video. Some common ideals for using video might be student-led interviews, videos explaining how to do something, book trailers, video newsletter to the parents, a persuasive topic, maybe asking for change about a research topic, stories from another perspective, personal narrative or memoir, video tours, or even self-assessments.
And the last project type we're going to talk about here today is podcasting. So oftentimes kids don't really know what podcasts are, especially the younger kids, and that's okay, because one of the best parts of this one is the exploration part, having them be exposed to podcasts and then learn, oh wow, these are really fun, I actually really like them. So again, I would give them their 3 that they wanted to choose from, and then they analyze their own 2 and compare and contrast. So again, I love the idea of using an Edu protocol so that they know exactly what to expect. It also cuts down on the time it takes to complete these things because they're used to that protocol. That you don't have to use this one, but it is helpful to have some kind of routine when you do these projects. And for them, I had them working in pairs for their podcast, and then I just had to approve a topic for them. And sometimes, yeah, I did give them a topic type, and other times I didn't, depending on what it is that I wanted them to show mastery for. They had to co-write a script, so they used Microsoft Docs, but you can also use Google Docs or a variety of any other ways to collaborate. There's a Canvas Collaborate as well. And then they just recorded on the app of their choice. And the cool thing was there's tons of ways to record, and I didn't care how they did it as long as they met the standards that I gave them. So for any of these 3 projects, you can see the rubrics that I posted in the Wakelet. And they did work with rubrics, and I think that's important too, to know what to expect out of these.
Podcast is such a new idea that sometimes it seems like it could be too challenging for the elementary school student, but it's not. There are 4 steps that the elementary school student may take to get through the podcast process. The first is to listen to podcasts. Here, there's a link that will take you to many different podcast ideas for both the elementary and secondary levels. It even comes with some activities to try to go along with some of the podcasts that are there. You as a teacher could choose the 2 different podcasts that you would like to explore or analyze together, or you can even, for the upper elementary or higher students, allow them to choose the 2 from this list that they would like to use. The second step would be to choose the podcast ideal. Here, there is a link that'll take you to some podcast ideals. This is 5 exercises that'll help you come up with your good podcast ideals. The third link here is to plan the podcast. This is really important to making sure that the students stay on topic and they don't ramble on. This website goes through even how to write a podcast script and a template that possibly could be used. And the last step is to record that podcast. Again, there are lots of different apps that can be used on the elementary and the secondary levels. GarageBand is a great app that can be used on Apple products. Again, there is Canvas Studio, where you can get the audio portion just by turning off the video. Audacity, Wixie, where students can record their voices over top of their created picture. And of course, Flipgrid. Some wonderful topic ideas for your podcast is student-led interviews, reteaching their future selves, which could be really fun for the students to do, read a story that they've written, showcasing a how-to tutorial, doing research and recording a podcast to persuade their peers, doing a book review, a podcast review, or article review, discussing their science report, sharing different cultural traditions, just sharing positive stories to uplift others, talking about their hobbies, or even spotlighting another country or region.
So I just want to go over some of the takeaways from doing all of this. While I showed you some ways that worked for me and my students, I also had a different curriculum than a lot of you might have. And so it's always good to start with targets. What do you want them to learn? You know, that the backwards planning that we do all the time. And then you can figure out what type of projects would work for this, or how can they show me these things? So you can use Bloom's taxonomy as a way to, for those verbs, we do the create a lot, and that's really high up there. It's great for them. The fact that a lot of this is self-directed when you give them choices, say with project-based assessment, opens up the opportunity to spend more time checking in with them. You can even use a playlist method, which is basically you give them a list and they can't move on to the next thing until you approve the first one. And I found that incredibly helpful because it allowed me to really see, one, the students' paces and how it was going so we could adjust accordingly, but also to see where kids are struggling. So if they have to stop and get it and check in with me before they move on to the next thing, they're talking to me about what they're doing. And I know if they're struggling, and I can give them that individualized attention because the other students are getting their work done at the same time. So I would just make it a point to check in with each of those kids every day. Now, virtually, that could mean just putting them in a breakout room and checking in with them that way individually, or in their small groups that they're working with. So you have some options to play there, but I found it to be really helpful in being able to really monitor my students. Now, I know that this is a lot of information in a very short time, so we just wanted to say thank you. I know this is just an overview, but if you visit the Wakelet, I provided examples of the different projects that my students created. We gave all kinds of resources for how to create choice boards and how to find information about different types of projects. There's all kinds of things about what we talked about, and I really wish we could dive into it deeper. But with the short time we have, hopefully you at least started to spark some ideas and get excited about some project-based assessment. Or even if you don't use a project-based, just providing choice is an incredible tool for our students. Thank you so much for coming today.
Thank you guys so much for coming. We hope that you enjoy the rest of VSTE, and we'll be here for a few more minutes if you want to add any other questions in the chat.
Yeah, we have about 5 minutes left of this. So if people have questions or they want to share some ideas in the chat, there's also the Discord rooms. You could continue your conversation in there as well. But Lindsay, Rochelle, do you have any final words you want to toss out?
No, it was a lot to fit into 25 minutes. So definitely if you have the time, check out that Wakelet. I put a lot of time putting a lot of examples. So I went through a lot of stuff that my kids actually created doing these things. So you can see it's not just an idea, it's possible. And I taught kids of every ability, every grade level between 6 and 8 anyway, but I was able to differentiate a lot of things that tailored to my student. So it's definitely not a black and white thing. You can tailor it to however you want it.
And please don't feel reluctant to those elementary school students because they can do way more than we allow them to do.
Absolutely.
So I know I'm probably preaching to the choir here. I know it's our teachers that we normally have to convince this to, but even just being able to show them this video so they can see how the elementary school students can actually create things. It's not as difficult as it looks, and it really helps them blossom into things that you didn't even realize that they can do.
And I'm going to toss a comment in here, and that the organizational tools, like you showed, are so very important for this, because if you don't have good, solid planning and organization, a lot of these projects go off the rails very quickly. So.
Yeah, that's why I like the idea of having like a set way of doing things with the kids, so it wasn't chaos every time. You know, the first time takes a little bit just to get them used to it. So there's more walking through then, but after that, they pretty much were able to just take off running. Once I introduced them to something new, they were already thinking about, okay, I know that while I'm listening to this, I'm also going to have to create one. So what is it that I'm going to want to do? So having that routine was really, really helpful. The Wakelet will have the video. We're going to post it after this.
Okay. Do we have anything else anyone wants to throw into this? Julie, let me see if I can. I'm not sure I can unmute you here, so let's try that. There we go. Go ahead.
So first of all, just like everyone else has said, these resources are amazing. And I think for every elementary school person here, we are so thankful for young ideas. But what I wanted to share, like you all said, don't be hesitant to try some of these with younger kids. So last year when distance learning started, my 2nd grade son decided he wasn't going to write anything and he just didn't have to. And I needed him to still get his ideas out. His teacher wanted him to create a journal to get his feelings out and keep track of what was happening with distance learning. And I had just gone through training for Adobe Spark in Loudoun County. And so I thought, you know, it'll kill 2 birds with 1 stone, right? It'll try to get him to do his assignment and I will learn how to use it. Adobe Spark is ridiculously easy. I mean, at that time, my 7-year-old son, who, if you have a 7-year-old son, you know how special they are. And he loved it. He started using it when he played Minecraft or with his Legos. So if you don't know where you want to start, just dip your toes into Adobe Spark. And it makes it look like you're the most talented storyteller with very minimal work. So give that a shot. And that's it. And thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you.
No, thank you, Lindsay. Thank you, Rochelle. We appreciate your time here and a lot of good ideas. And I'm going to stop the recording here.